So shareholders are pushing back a lot more than they used to about executive pay. We've had a couple of examples this week. We had Citigroup, where 55% of shareholders basically said no to Vikram Pandit's pay. We've got a Goldman Sachs shareholder saying that one of the directors basically rubber stamps pay and shouldn't be reelected. Guys, we're looking into this. You've got GE. We were looking through the proxy in the past that they sort of responded to shareholders and cut back things or changed the performance metrics for Jeff Immelt. I mean, it sounds to me like shareholders finally, doing what they should do.
Yeah, it's about time, right? We quite like this development. And on Citi, it seems like they're voting actually against one particular thing. Well, some of them talked about his general pay package, but it was the remuneration plan they gave him last year, the incentive plan.
And what was that? Give us a little more color.
I think at the time it was like worth $16.5 billion. There were options, stock, cash involved in that, and there was some pretty woolly stuff in there. Make sure that the bank does responsible finance, build a good team. But the ridiculous thing there, they said, look, we want you to get this package over the next 2 years. The core of the Citigroup has to earn about, I think it's $12 billion. Right. Well, they earned half of that in the first 3 months of this year.
So it wasn't a very demanding target.
It's not a target. It's like, sit back, take it easy.
But there's a lesson here from. I mean, you were looking at the General Electric last year, and it's in this next week they have their AGM or something. So I mean, what did we learn from when they got a 20% against vote for their?
I mean, they're saying like in their proxy that they talked to shareholders and that basically they added 2 metrics. And I mean, they're decent metrics. One is basically that they have to have a certain amount of cash flow from their industrial operations.
So they have a sort of absolute number.
An absolute
they have to hit.
Cumulative number.
Like Citi has.
Yeah, but this one looks like it's more.
This one looks like it actually, it is an actual target.
It's not something they earn every quarter by showing up.
Exactly. I mean, just looking at last year and like timesing it by 4, they would have fallen short. So it's something to swing for, right? And the other issue is, basically either performing equally or exceeding the S&P 500, which, frankly, it's GE. You would think maybe they should be exceeding the S&P 500, but you look at the past 10 years, or at least the past 5, and they've had a really hard time doing that.
But so you basically have an absolute target that is demanding-ish.
Yes.
At least demanding, which wasn't the case with Citigroup.
Yeah.
So you can see if Citigroup
doubled, tripled that 12 billion number,
And then you have a relative performance to the S&P. Now, one could say that's not very demanding to meet or exceed because they're not the same thing.
Right, exactly.
Meeting is, I could have put it into a benchmark, into an ETF for the S&P 500 and not handed.
And I think probably going forward, if they do meet the S&P 500, that will probably be retweaked. But I mean, if you're a GE shareholder and you've been riding along with GE, I mean that is actually that would be an accomplishment.
And if they don't hit those targets, 50% of his options, which are like 2 million options, and 50% on for either of those targets, he doesn't get them.
Exactly.
This is what Vikram and his board is going to have to figure out, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good challenge for the new chairman, Michael O'Neill, who's actually the guy who sat as head of.
He's on the Remcom, right?
Yeah, I think he ran it. I'm not sure if he does now as chairman, but he certainly did last year when they came up with the package. But yeah, this is a perfect thing to do. Of course, it would be rather good to introduce some kind of ladder to this as well. So the more. The better you perform, the more you can earn. The only issue is you can find, as we've seen in the past, that executives will manage to those targets.
Right.
So you want to make sure the risk management is good enough as well.
Right. Okay, well, good. It's nice to see shareholders acting up. And we'll be back with more breaking views next week.